Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 15 this morning from busy to effective how to align action with outcomes. So happy to see you, Elise.
Hey, Francis, great to be here. What a great topic for today. Like, we're heading towards the end of the year. Everyone's talking about how busy they are. Thanksgiving and Christmas and all these holidays are coming up, and we need to get things done. So, I'm really excited about this conversation.
Absolutely. And, when we were researching about this topic, it reminded me of incredible stats that I've learned. It's probably 4 years ago from Flow Research Collective, and these guys are just fantastic. And that was alarming what I was seeing, and I'm going to share it with you right now and for all of us. If you didn't know, the average knowledge worker, this is the amount of hours on average that we do good work. 2.3 hours of work. So, when we're talking about being busy and effective, there's a real difference. And the thing is, we are being bombarded by a lot of different things, and there's interruptions all the time. If we're just looking at some of the stats here, 56 interruptions per day. There's a lot of unnecessary meetings. We are only every 11 minutes focused on what we need to be focused on. If we're looking at a phone, I think it says that, we are looking at our phone, just looking like 6 to 8 minutes, and we're on our phone in about every 10 minutes. So it's more than 150 times that we are being interrupted. We're not even talking about the switching costs. There's so much that we can do better. I still remember when we were actually doing this course, one of the first things that they said is remove all notifications. Right
Okay.
now, when I pick my phone, there's nothing that's happening. There's actually a kind of a feature said wake to rise or rise to wake. I always, that's my French Canadian accent here. I don't remember but we know what that means. That means every time you pick up your phone, it's not gonna rise, it's not gonna wake up. So the point is
Oh,
that we're not very effective. And the good news is that we can do a lot better, so much better. And there's another thing that I wanted to share is how we look at decent versus top performers. Like, they've done so much research, and if you're looking at the decent performers, there's some things that we can kind of observe right now. They have a fixed mindset, so they're in their own way. They don't want to change too much. They're, as opposed to being growth mindset. The peak performers are like, give me any time, give me anything, I will learn. I want to be better, and I'm gonna do it. And the decent performers, they're at risk of being interrupted all the time. They seek consumption, entertainment. Like I said, they don't like to change, and they're hooked on stimulation. There's a war right now just to be focused, and it hits our dopamine. People want to have the dopamine reward all the time. I've been guilty of that so much, and I know it's destructive. It's destructive on our effectiveness. It doesn't get the work done. And the beauty is that, like I said, we don't need to focus on too many things that will move the needle. And the peak performers, they're mission driven. They know what they want. We talk about it, right? The goal, the vision. What is it that I'm
mm.
aiming at right now? So I'll pause for a second. I'm curious about what you think when I'm mentioning all of these stats.
Yeah. Yeah. Firstly, it's absolutely frightening, right? That people only work for 2.3 hours a day, I think you said. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
absolutely shocked by that. And it's so interesting because working with business owners and CEOs, people are really worried about outputs, right? At the end of the day, like, regardless whether you work 2 hours or 10 hours, the work needs to get done. And I think at the end of the day, we just want results, right? I mean, we so frequently talk about results. If you can do it smarter and shorter, fantastic. But at the end of the day, you need to get the output. And I was actually speaking to one of my clients this morning, and he was telling me how busy he was. And like, I get it, right? So there's emails and everyone wants your attention. They want you to answer questions, and clients are demanding time of him. And then I said to him, okay, well, let's unpack what you're busy with. Let's unpack what your calendar looks like, what a typical day looks like, and what of that can only you do. And I think it's a really important question to ask, especially a leader, because so often people, when they've come through the ranks of the organization, you're in a comfort zone in certain places. So this person used to be like a technical kind of expert in the organization. He started the business, and he really has fun with kind of the product development part. And when he wants to almost like avoid the harder bits, parts that are out of his comfort zone, more strategic, more client facing, more kind of sales and partnerships and long term, he goes back to where he's comfortable. And as much as I think people appreciate that skill set that he has, I think the impact is so much bigger than he realizes. Firstly, he's not focusing on what he needs to. And when he gets involved in things that he shouldn't anymore, his team feels that he is taking kind of over their space, right? So if he has a comment about how the product innovation should be working, obviously your team won't go, no, Mr. Owner, I don't agree. And this is what I think. Like when you're speaking first and when you're going into that space, you're reducing creativity for your people. And that conversation was so interesting for me because we so easily go back to what we're good at and what we're comfortable with, right? And I think this whole conversation is about stretching ourselves in terms of what does our business or what do we need to get done. If it's in our personal lives, what is going to move us towards our goals? And where do I need to be spending my time to get the results? Because that's the effective work and not the busy work.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I love the fact that you underline the word comfortable. This is where we're going to talk a little bit more about how the mind works and why we love comfortable as opposed to stretching ourselves. And, it reminded me also of a friend of mine that told me that she was hired recently by the CEO, and the CEO was actually doing things like, and I mean, I that surprised me. I'm not saying that's the case of a lot of CEOs, but just listen in your own story and maybe you can ask yourself, am I doing the right thing? But this person was actually scheduling travel for his salespeople, like the major. So you're like, this is not a job of a CEO. And unfortunately, the person lost his job. Not a surprise, but maybe not at that level. But if you just go back to the number of hours that we're actually working, really, truly working, are we focused? Are we doing the right things? Is there somebody else that can do what we do? Or like you said, like the job of a CEO is to have the vision and create the culture for all the teams. So that is the job of a CEO, and you know more than anyone on that as well. So, one thing that I truly appreciate when we look at what's available out there to learn what matters, the book The Science of Scaling by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I like when he talks about the noise versus the signal. And, there's so many things like we know already, like there's so much noise around, like we got to shut that down and really try to be more focused. So if you're looking at, I just love how he's creating this picture right here. So you look, there's so much noise. And so when we become focused and we kind of do the one thing that matters, then work is different. The output is very different. And I think we actually talked about these 6 activities that we can do. That was one of the trick. And I had actually a conversation with my accountability partner this morning, and we shared the activities that we want to do during the day, like goal achieving activities. And a lot of the times we think that this is a goal achieving activities, but it's not. Like a goal achieving activity is something that you can point at and you know exactly if it's going to be done or not. It's not about refreshing the website. It's not about getting a proposal ready per se. No, the real goal activities are proposal, being in front of the people, making phone calls. The rest is and you're going to learn. And so you can do these things after the fact. But during the business hours, if we're looking at some of the salespeople, if we're just kind of fine-tuning the template and doing all these things but not talking to anyone, well, guess what? The results are not going to be there. And it's just by doing that we will get better and better and better. Another example is this person that was talking about doing YouTube videos, and he's just started his own channel. He said, you should have looked at me when I started. It was awful. But he's doing the right thing and he's learning so much. He said, I had 20 views in the beginning and now he's got 200 views, and that's only in a couple months. So it's just to show that, the more we are being focused on the right activities and we're doing it constantly, we're going to get better at it and now watch the results.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it boils down to just starting. It's going to be imperfect. And I think this kind of need for everything to be perfect and right and the conditions to be correct, like that actually never happens, right? So, forcing yourself to get started is so important. Yeah, go ahead with your quote.
Well, I mean, Tim Ferriss, I love the concept, right? 4 hour work week. That was how he got known. So being busy is a form of laziness, lazy thinking, and indiscriminate action. Being overwhelmed is often as not productive as doing nothing and is far more unpleasant. Being selective, being focused, doing less is the path of the productive. Focus on the important few and ignore the rest. Exactly what Dr. Benjamin Hardy would say. So I think it's time right now to kind of have a reminder of now a little bit of the mindset of being effective. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. So the emphasis on that is really asking ourselves, like, we all have filters, and the next slide really presented so well. We have our paradigms, and I'll let you introduce what the paradigm is, but at the end of the day, those are the things that control everything that we see on this list. So how about you show us and you
Thank you.
explain what is a paradigm and why is it that we just said, and I'm going to read this quote, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
Mm. So I remember hearing a story a while back saying that people used to think the earth was flat, right? Because they were like, well, if it was any other shape, people would be falling off the side and the bottom, right? And it's only when you realize that there's a force like gravity that it could be round, and that's how our understanding evolves. And the paradigm is basically your belief system, but what is like really important is that it controls so much of what we do. So in that bottom left corner, we have the stick man that we've introduced before. So we have our conscious mind, where it's our thinking and our analytical mind. And that's where we can accept or reject thoughts, right? If someone says something, you can say, I believe it, or I agree with it, or not, right? If something gets into your subconscious mind, that's where our belief system is. That's where our emotions are. And your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what it accepts and rejects. And that's where your paradigm sits. And 95% of everything we think is like our controlled by our subconscious mind. And I think that's why it's so important to understand that the programming that has been put in place from a very young age is basically controlling your entire life, right?
Yeah,
And things like
95%. It's crazy.
95%. And think about, I mean, what we make 70,000 decisions a day. Most of those are just on repeat. So if you don't choose to do things differently, you're going to be reliving the same day over and over again. You're going to do the same things with the same attitude, with the same people, with the same response. And it's when you choose to do things differently, make different choices, that things will start changing. You often see people that say, like, a change is as good as a holiday. And I often used to kind of find that quite funny. And, I'll choose to work, like drive to work in a different route, or choose to do something kind of out of the ordinary, just to almost like mix it up. And then when I started understanding this, you realize how, like, you almost like crave something new. Otherwise, it's just, Groundhog Day over and over again. And then you see how your logic and, for today, your productivity is in how you think. If you believe you can only do so much, you will only do so much. Or, we know Elon Musk is always one of those people that tries to shorten like timelines, right? Because he says that if you give yourself a lot of time, you'll fill the time. So if you give yourself very short timelines, you're forcing yourself to think differently. And that also goes back to Dr. Benjamin Hardy, because he also kind of challenges the idea of, the whole 10x is easier than 2x. How do you think so differently? How do you scale your business so big that there's no way you're squeezing more juice from the lemon? It's a completely different thing. There's no lemon anymore, and I often have this conversation with people. I think so often we think in a linear fashion of like, what are incremental little things? Do I need to work a few extra hours a day? Do I need to push harder? But I think the fundamental thing is, if you want to do things completely differently, if you want to break out of this kind of box that you've got yourself into, this paradigm that you've got yourself into, you need to completely smash it and almost start again, right? Like, if I had a blank slate, what would it look like? And how different can it be? and almost like disregard everything that you've been thinking, because I think that's when those big exponential leaps really happen.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes uncomfortable, right? So this is, I think, there's so much that we can do again on the paradigm because it controls everything, and that's why we said we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. So if we are thinking that time is limited, well, that's going to affect everything that we do. If we were thinking that there's so much time that I don't need too much to accomplish something because I'm inspired, I'm in flow, I'm not being interrupted, all of a sudden I can accomplish a lot more. And like you said, there's some laws that already exist. One is called the Parkinson law, and the Parkinson law is you allocate an hour, you'll do your best work in that hour. If it's it reminds us of when we were doing our exam, right? Like if you had 4 or 5 days to study for your exam, we were studied the day before. I'm not saying this is the best technique, but the point is we're getting it done. The reason why I say it's not necessarily the best technique is that we've also been conditioned to know that to know more is the best thing. And I guess what we're saying right now is use time like wisely, in a smart way. There's already some rules that can help you. And really, it's more about identifying the goal achieving activities, the 1 or 2 habits, because the habits are what are in the subconscious mind. So when we change them, they have a big effect, and we don't need to do too much because, again, another law, the law of Pareto, if you 20% of everything that we do creates 80% of the results. But then after that, when we're trying to optimize something that, the return is almost so minimal that it's not even worth it. So to me, I think it's a great news because we don't need to do that much. We just need to focus on the right thing, on the signal instead of the noise. And here's another thing about the paradigms as well, because I was on an amazing call this afternoon with one of the super successful consultant, and one of the things that they were mentioning at one point is that he was doing so much action. Like when he started, he was doing massive action, and we can hear that from Tony Robbins, and I love Tony Robbins, which is like massive action, let's do it, massive action. So you do the massive actions, but the real question, and that's where the paradigm comes in, is who am I being when I'm doing this action? Am I doing it out of desperation? Am I doing it out of desperation and impatience? And so what type of, you can call it vibration, or what type of mindset am I doing it from? Because this person, like this now very successful consultant, realized that he had the wrong approach. Like when we say doing things in a certain way. So it's not about just doing the task. And you can say, oh, I'm doing the goal achieving activities. Yeah, but how are you doing those activities? And that's where we adjust our being. So are you doing the proposal in front of your client with a lot of enthusiasm? Are you serving this client? Are you thinking about the paycheck? Like what type of mindset do you have when you're doing these activities? So we don't need to do that much, but we need to do it in a certain way that will move the needle. And that's very important. And that's where the paradigm comes in, because maybe we think I got to do a lot in order to achieve a lot. But that's not true. Some other people say I need to do the right thing and not in a whole big quantity, and I will have a lot of results. And that's where we shift our mindset. And if you're just a decent worker, as we've seen in the stats, and you have a fixed mindset, well, that's not really going to help to make a big shift into your productivity and effectiveness.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to kind of your personal work, right? Your personal awareness, the work that you're willing to do on yourself. Because as you say, who are you being when you're doing these things? I mean, you and I could be doing the same things and we could be getting different results. So yeah, I think that example you shared of like, how are you showing up is so important. And as we have here, like the only way you know whether your paradigms are serving you or not is to look at your results. If your results are where you want them to be and you're achieving your goals, then clearly your thinking, your belief system, that filter through which you see your life, that is your paradigms, that is serving you. If not, it's time to think about them. And there's an exercise we want to take you through in terms of thinking about what like are your current results, what are you doing, and then how do you shift them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things that we do as consultant, and I love this, is that we can actually just kind of take the inventory of the results and really say, like, if I had to describe it to some of the people, what does that look like? And you can put that on a piece of paper. and you look at them, and you can also take an inventory of all the beliefs about your vision. And everything that's negative, you kind of look at it and you're thinking, okay, so that I choose, and I decide that I'm scrapping this off. I can shred the sheet of paper, I can burn it with a fire, I release it because I'm choosing to think differently. And now you can write on another piece of paper or your computer, like a real good, high ideal version of the habits that you have. And that's a good activity to do also as a group, right? What are the things that we do very well that create results, and what are the things that seems to not move anything in the company? And if there's anything that's non-productive, let's remove those. Let's remove them completely and change them to probably two habits that we know by doing them will create great results.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great way to just objectively review what's going on. I mean, we all have things that we aren't as confident about, we aren't as happy with, and you can easily just kind of shy away from them. But this is time to go, like the story I told earlier of the CEO that is avoiding kind of the hard work. Like, what do you want to achieve? What are you as CEO doing to drive your organization forward? And are you doing those things? Yes or no? He's clearly avoiding them right now. So avoiding it because he's not confident, it's something he's uncomfortable with, etc. So you can write that current situation down and then look at that and go, what is the complete opposite? What should I be doing? What am I, how am I feeling about it? How am I showing up? How is my confidence increasing? I'm feeling so confident that I want to go out and build new partnerships to build my business forward, instead of I'm hiding with the tech guys because that's what I'm comfortable with. So objectively going through where you are right now, is it serving the goals that you want to do, like reach? And then what is the exact opposite, and what would it look like? What would it feel like? What would you be doing? And rewriting that. And I often say to people, it's almost like you're writing the script of your life, right? You're writing the script of who am I? What's important to me? How do I show up? How am I doing this thing? As you were saying just now, that guy used to take action, but he wasn't kind of living it in the right energy. How would I be showing up if I were in those results? And that then is something that you need to repeat to yourself over and over and over again. I remember once making a slide for some clients about repetition, right? And I think so often most of us, because of our short attention span that you spoke about right at the beginning, we're like, hey, exactly. We probably didn't read the book. There was an ebook somewhere along the line that I was listening to while I was driving and potentially speaking to my kids and taking phone calls. And if you think about like when you're actually paying attention, if it was like a timeline, you would go in and out of concentration, right? And there's some parts that you listen to or read and pay attention to, and some parts not. And if you almost kind of go, there are these holes in your understanding, right? Because you're only paying attention sometimes, not all of the time, when you read the book or listen or whatever. And the repetition is going to help you fill those gaps, right? So you're filling in more of those like squares or holes every time. And you need to listen to it so many times that, over the total that you've really consumed and absorbed all the information. And that's how we learn anything. I mean, you and I were joking about ice skating earlier. Like, you don't get it the first time, right? Like, you get better and better, and you fall and you get up and you joke, and eventually you can ice skate probably without even thinking about it. I'm still at the part where I'm like holding on to the side all the time.
I wish I can see that, to be honest.
Exactly.
I would help you. I would help you, of course.
But it's the repetition, and it's practice, and being like having perseverance, and it's all of those things. And that's how we learn anything, right? And I think it's so sad because as kids, it's just like you fall, you get up, you try again. You can speak the language, you can't. Like, you're learning words as you go. It's so interesting how as babies and as toddlers, you've never thought that you can't do stuff. You just practice it over and over again until you can do it. It's how you learn to walk or talk or ride a bike or whatever it is, right? And as adults, we try once or twice and we're like, nah, I don't think it's for me, And it's such a pity. We need to go back to the mindset of being a child and going, I am going to do this thing and I'm going to do it as many times and I'm going to laugh along the way and I'm going to have fun because I'm learning something new and I'm growing as an individual as part of the process.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things I'm thinking about when you say all of these things. Because first, when you talked about this gentleman, the CEO, and you look at the things that he was doing in order to be comfortable or not uncomfortable, I love what you said about the vision. And then I would ask myself, what's holding me back to do the things that I know I should do? And if I am not comfortable, why am I thinking I'm not comfortable? And I think, a lot of the times we just want to get the approval of other people, or we don't like to look bad, or we think that, it's going to, and that's what's holding us back. And that's where the paradigm is all about. And it's also about the culture. Do we have a culture that we allow people to make mistakes and we actually say this is good because we are learning, as opposed to nobody wants to make a mistake? And if that's the case, well, there's not going to be a lot of advancement and people will stay in their corner. So this is where I feel there's need to be a big revamp of culture about making mistake, because it's not making a mistake, it's about learning, and to know that this is essential, really essential, so essential. I'm going to repeat it, so essential, because we don't there's a lot of things that we do now that in a year from now, imagine how far we're going to be. And imagine also, if you didn't have that fear of how you're going to look like for others, imagine how far we can be, because we're just being we're held back by just these paradigms that are not true. It's just borrowed from a long time ago, and we favor knowledge a lot more than action. And if we actually look at the results first, then it doesn't matter how many times we failed before, because at the end, by all these repetitions, it's going to lead to the results. So, and it's a progressive, like I think that's Earl Nightingale that said, worthy ideals, a progressive success is a
Realization.
sorry, is a
Yeah, go ahead.
progressive. No, I think I lost it. I'm
Success
a
is
little
a
bit.
progressive
I'm under the weather
realization
a
of
little
worthy
bit, but
ideal.
hopefully it doesn't show too much. It's the. Can you say it, please?
The success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
There you go. Thank you, partner. You're amazing. Thank you. That's the when we're live, we're live. We cannot go back. Sorry. There's only one take. But that's the reality, right? So it's just to remember that this is what we need to do, to constantly repeat progressing. The progress is more important, focusing on the process as opposed to the goal. And if we keep on working on the process, making some progress, making some mistakes, learning and learning and learning, that's going to lead to what we really want. Yeah.
And I think that, that kind of celebrating that 1% a day or whatever it is, appreciating. And I think taking time to reflect back and go, hey, like, where have I come from? Every time you do something uncomfortable, it's going to get that little bit easier. And then one day you're going to stand on the stage or whatever you've been challenging yourself to do and go, this is actually not so bad, and that's a day you should really like celebrate, because it just shows you how far you've come. And I don't think we do that often enough. Hey, just celebrating the progress we've made.
I'm glad you say that. Appreciation. What we appreciate. So appreciating the learning lessons, and I appreciate you so much in this episode especially. So thank you for that. Now I think we can wrap it up. About the key takeaways that we've had today, just remembering that being busy is a whole lot different than being effective, because if you're not aligned to what matters, then you're not going to accomplish your mission, right?
Yeah. The other one is prioritization is power. So focusing on what's really important, really distill what are the things that you can do that are really going to shift the needle, and focus on those.
And I love people when they say auditing your calendar. Are you blocking the time for what matters? And I love this quote from Ajit Nawalka, a co-founder and CEO of Mind Valley. He said, "Your calendar is a mirror of your courage." So if you look at all the people in sales right now, do you have the courage to do a lot of the sales call, even if you feel you're not ready? And I heard from somebody today say, you're never going to be ready. There's no way you're always going to be ready. So you're just going to take courage, take action, and be courageous and be bold and do it.
Yeah. Then we also have lead by design. So, I mean, as a leader, you Everyone is looking at you and you're leading by example. So be that role model and also focus on execution. Make sure that you're doing the right things, showing your team what's expected. And that is how you really get that culture to where you want it to be in your team.
And lastly, just are we doing the things that are leading to our vision? And if it's something personal, is it what I'm doing right now is towards the life I want to create? Is this really what I want to create? And because again, Dr. Benjamin Hardy is such an amazing author and talking about the signal versus the noise. If you want to be exponential, if you want to create something amazing, I think that's actually a pretty good exercise to do, regardless if you believe or not about 100x. But if you're asking yourself in terms of a big, big, big goal, like how can we do this? The ideas you're gonna get will be so different, and then taking actions on those, like a small two little habits. I mean, that's going to be a really amazing 2026 if you're just doing that exercise alone. So thank you so much for showing up
Absolutely.
today. Any leader is so lucky to have you help them. So I invite anyone here to connect with Elise. She's great at listening. She's great at finding the things that you like behind you, or just like on your blind spot, you don't know what's happening. She can see that, she can listen to it, and she helps a lot of leaders. So thank you for being with us
Thank you,
today.
Francis. I appreciate you. And there's Francis' QR code. Please click it to learn more about what he's busy with. He has the nightclub. He's an amazing group of men that focus on kind of building and growing their journey and growing collectively, which is super exciting. And we also, in our last takeaway slide, we also had a link to a Google Doc that we have that have some
That's
exercises for
right.
you if
I'm
you
going
want to
to
work through
show it
that,
again.
and some
Yes,
exercises for
absolutely.
you.
Oh, I believe actually we're live. It's not gonna be there, but if you're, I thought we had it. So, sorry. Like
This
this is
one.
live. This is live. Yeah, there you go. There you go. The key takeaway. We have it. This is the QR code. So you scan that, and actually all the episodes that we have done so far, they're all there. You have great takeaways. You have great exercises. It's a summary of everything that we talked about, so you can always refer back to them. That's a great resource that we love to give to you guys. Some of the exercises, like I said, are very, very powerful, and depending on what the subjects you want to take a look at, all the tabs are there with the titles. I highly, highly recommend that you click on this and find out more about what we do. Yes. So thank you so
Fantastic. Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Thank you for being with us today. And yeah, exploring how we can all just be more effective and get great results and make a big impact. So, really exciting to have this conversation. Francis, thank you for your time, and we will see everyone next time.
Amazing.